How's it going? My name is David. This is my life on play. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you're having a great day. Boy, it is magic hour in San Francisco. The lighting is absolutely fantastic out here today. And it is a beautiful, beautiful day. So I've been talking about, here's the Trans-American building, also gorgeous. I've been going through my experience with the Big Four and wanted to depict the exit opportunities that I saw at the entity level today. And, you know, I was actually just thinking back on my experiences with the people I had worked with and where they ended up, and to be honest, it was actually pretty limited now that I think about it. So if we break down the fun people, a lot of those guys actually wound up going to funds. That's where they had their experience, but they weren't necessarily focusing in tax. They were doing tax and accounting, which was a great mix for them. They were able to pivot into more of a financial accounting and reporting role and not being so hung up on just tax. Those guys wound up getting a great pay bump out of tax, and you know, they wound up being, you know, pretty happy with where they're at. I know a lot of the guys are there are really glad that they did that they focused on the fun work. And you know, the one thing you got to be careful of is that when you do start fund work, you need to be aware that if you're going to work for a fund, it's limiting to a lot of the major cities. So Chicago, San Francisco, New York, you're gonna have a hard time finding a fun job if you go back to Wisconsin or somewhere, and definitely follow the money. Where there's a lot of money, you're gonna wind up being successful, and these guys are very successful in what they're doing. Moving on to more of the corporate space. So corporate, there's lots of things. So they were not necessarily just doing tax returns, they were also doing provisions. And this wound up being very useful for them when they were looking for jobs. So a lot of the placement was to larger corporations that they had done work for. They were transferred into larger corporations that they weren't doing work for, but they had the provision experience. And the other way that guys were exiting were to other tax firms as well. So if they were a senior manager and they were just getting crushed, they decided, hey, I can go to a smaller firm and actually make partner there, and that's what other people did too. So in SF, there was lots of tech startups too, and this proved to be a great opportunity for a lot of the people in that they would go to a cool, hip tech startup and wind up being maybe the first tax person in that department, and they wound up building it all out. I actually know a couple people who did that, and they're super happy with that. They just talk directly with the CFO, and they are the first person in that corporation to manage all the tax. So, like I said, the opportunities are there if you like accounting and that's the path that you would like to go. If you're going to be in corporate, that's kind of the projection, the placement that people wind up getting into out of that. And for fund space, they wind up going to funds or other firms. But you know, I wound up being in corporate when I left, and I actually took a slightly different path, and I wound up going into more of a bookkeeping, account CFO type of, outsourced CFO type of role, and that actually proved to be a lot of opportunities in that space as well. You know, I actually detailed that in one of my other vlogs about my accounting story. I think there's 2 parts to it. You should definitely listen, and I'm actually really grateful that that's where I wound up going when I was exiting out of the Big Four. So for you, when you're thinking about being in the Big Four, or being in accounting in general, and this happens with mid-tier firms too, the exit opportunities are very similar in that when you start doing fund work, think about what your exit ops are going to be. And when you start doing corporate work, think about what those are going to be. And it's just really important to think about that when you're on the work, because when you're doing corporate work and you're trying to get into a fund, people look and say, I really just need somebody who's more specialized in fund work. And then if you're doing fund work and you're trying to get into corporate work, or into a corporate placement, it's actually hard to transition there. So that leads me into the next piece that I'd like to really detail tomorrow, and that is how to get that experience within a Big Four, okay, and how to leverage that experience into a job outside of that. So those are my tips. That's what I saw, and of course, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're listening. My name is David. This is my life on play. Hope you enjoyed the chat, and definitely leave a comment if you are interested in more questions.
Cause ain't no sunshine when she gone.